Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome as the Formula Ford SRF at Weekend Warriors presented by Ray Esports rolls into the UK and Snetterton round 4 of this brand new championship after a drama-filled Summit Point only 1 week ago. Get the feeling it's going to resume and, well, invoke great racing yet again. Here on Apex Racing TV, I'm Tim Cox with Samuli Kule in the virtual production trailer, joined by, well, a new voice to the channel, pro streamer, Owen Carroll. Congratulations on your first commentary.
Thank you very much, mate.
Well, welcome along, and, well, I mean, classic British circuit, what can we say? One of the post-World War II airfield circuits transformed into a racetrack, true national circuit, and a sort of a national level car. These two should fit really well together.
Yeah, indeed. Good evening, everyone, and happy Easter as well. Yeah, I mean, this track is obviously known for a lot of close racing, of course, and being a tight and twisty track in the UK. It's yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting watch with these Formula Fords being, very technical and, very slidey as well. I think we can see a lot of, hopefully a lot of side-by-side action, especially into the kind of hairpin turn 2 there as well. So yeah, hopefully we can see some nice action and a good race ahead of us.
Most certainly. Qualifying just underway right now, and, well, open qualifying 20 minutes and currently 12 of those into it. Yogamani, the Swiss driver, is leading the way. We can continue on here as well. Qualifying form from last week. Currently leads by 2 tenths exactly over Thomas Renders. So we see, well, I say that, as Jason Green, the American, just slightly quicker than Renders there by a couple of attempts, so good lap from him, but it's a real good strong showing from the Masters drivers, denoted by yellow on the timing tower, top left side of your screen, with Antonio Rice currently lying on the second row of the grid, 4th at the moment. Let's just take a little look at the championship standings, though, and fresh our memory to Spec 1, so the highest iRacing drivers. Overstreet leads that one. She is not here tonight, so with no Eric Rodenberg either. They're going to remain on 274 and 223 points respectively, so it's going to be down to someone a little bit further down really to catch up. Jason Green's going to be able to haul a lot of points in tonight, currently lying 6th, and he'll be able to pretty much to catch up with Alan de Garcias, who lies in 3rd at the moment. with, of course, well, Torzulo and Jeff Jackson and Wild Bino running out your top 10 in that portion of the championship into Spec 2.
Yeah, to see as well.
We'll run through these quick. We'll get the boring bit done and dusted. Pentaclide leading that one by 21 points. Wallbank, he's second, and then we've got Laurie, Benner, Flores, Coffee, Griffin, Justice, Walbolt, and Pocock's around at your top 10 into Masters. I want to get that done dusted because there's been a bit of a change for the pole position time right now. Stevie Ray leads that one. Murakami, Yogmani, he'll, well, leap up through the championship standings, and likewise Antonio Rice, if they can convert their good qualifying form here at Snetterton into race pace, and expect those two to move to the top of the championships. Jeff Cantor, Bradshaw, Bruce Rec, Vaccaro, and Janae rounding out your top 10 there. Owen, over to you. You were about to make clearly a really valid point, and I cut you off there.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I was just looking at Manny and Green, obviously on the timing towers P2 and 3 currently as well, and they seem to be drafting each other as well. So how much of an effect will that play in today's race? We're going to find out, obviously, with a lot of straights on the Snetterton track. But yeah, they're currently sitting P2 and 3 and both drafting off each other as well. So it seems to be fairly effective. It brought Green up quite a lot of positions in terms of his qualifying position. Not sure if Reese had anyone drafting him or, you know, the opposite way around at all. But yeah, it seems to be a fairly effective method, especially here in qualifying.
And talking about getting slightly ahead of ourselves now as we've got qualifying going on, obviously 5 minutes remaining there. Overtaking spots around here. Turn 1 is normally the really easy spot to overtake. It's normally a big braking zone, whereas Snetterton, it's more of a fast-flowing right where it's, well, there's, I mean, if you go too wide, you're going to dice with death or lose a lot of time, or both. And it's more turn 2, Montreal, that provides the better overtaking spots for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously I'm seeing down the track map, but it seems like turn 2, 3 maybe as well is a really good spot for overtaking. Turn 1, again, as you say, it seems like a fairly middle to late apex there as well. So side-by-side action might be very minimal there, but if you can get a run off the final corner, you know, and try and make a move into turn 2, it could pay dividend for the rest of the race. And yeah, I think turn 2 and 3 is our only real big overtaking spots, maybe turn 6 as well. But yeah, they seem like some fairly sharpish corners to try and track it down the inside and hold on to a brand new position for these guys.
And it's that down the back straight, that little complex just after it, Brendo and Nelson. Well, I would say I don't know about you, but I know you won't have any issues with it. But myself, I really struggle with that complex there because you need to carry quite a bit of speed in initially, but then it's so easy to still unsettle the rear of the car. And of course, these cars not having any downforce whatsoever. It's going to be quite tricky, that sort of section, especially on the cold tyres. We're just on board with Roland Wallbank right now, so we're going to experience it, see how he gets on. But yeah, it's a real tricky set of corners, this.
Yeah, for sure. As you see it go, like a sweeping left-hander cutting straight back into a right, which is very, very tight as well, as you can see. Missing the apex there ever so slightly, but the run-off to the left-hand side is very minimal. So carrying a lot of speed into that right hand is going to be very difficult, and trying to follow a car through there might pay dividends as well if the dirty air is strong enough to have a lot of resistance here as well.
Got the never-ending right-hander that is Coram down on the brakes into Murray's. Trying to avoid that great big sausage curve on the inside there and really hook it up and get the best possible exit off the corner. And then the run across the start-finish line down to Rich's turn 1. If he comes across the line, is it any improvement in time for Wallbank? No, he remains currently still in 6th. 3rd row of the grid for him. Andrew Love, he's on an improving lap down in 12th right now. Looking at it, he's only really driver is improving that there. Well, I say that as Jim, say Love to cross the line and moves up into 10th. There's up 2 spots for him. Wow, those top 3 are really close. And then it's once you get into the midfield, the nitty gritty, there's incredibly close times there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously the whole pack is spread out by, you know, a lot of times here so far. But yeah, as you say, it's very close between some of these mid packs here. Like I see Brewster, Love as well, very close as well. Obviously the top 3 are extremely close as well. And Jim Brewster seems to be on a good lap so far. Currently green in both sectors. So let's see how he gets on and see if he can bring himself up further than 9th place.
Stroke makes a bit of a change by iRacing standards. The stereotypical but normal real life 3 sectors here, as opposed to iRacing likes to generate numerous sectors at numerous tracks. So let's see what that one here. As Brewster comes across the line, what's he going to do? Oh, well, he loses it all in that final
Oof.
sector. Clear. There you go. Congratulations on your first comments to the commentator there, saying he's on
Yeah,
a
there it
great
is.
lap. Green and green sectors 1 and 2, and then a disastrous final sector for the American. And he ends up, well, losing all of that time gained and no improvement for him. He remains 9th. And to be fair, I think he was on course to move up ahead of Pentakine and possibly ahead of Laurie as well. So that would have got him all the way up into 7th. And shame for him. This is seeing right now, this is Joshua Flores. He's an improved middle sector and a relatively strong one too. So if he can carry this on throughout the rest of the lap and, well, hopefully a good closing sector. I mean, the ways go through right now, Cora, it's another really challenging corner, isn't it? Because it's, like I said earlier, it's never ending and you have to sort of keep feathering the throttle and to try and get it right.
Yeah, indeed. Balancing that mid corner is extremely difficult, and again, you've got to get really close to the right hand side to flick it back into the left. It's such a tight corner in that last corner there. So, yeah, that never-ending right is really, really tough in terms of trying to get the car, round, but also quick enough to have it a good lap time, being it such a huge part of the lap as well. But yeah, in terms of the race, maybe someone can try and chuck it around the outside, because that left-hander is really beneficial if you're around the outside on the left side.
As if they dare. That's another
if they
part,
dare,
isn't it? It's such a tricky, like you say, it's a tricky corner, and it's all it takes is one mistake from the car on the inside just to steer out into, and it can be race ending for the pair of you. But like I say, it's definitely a really strong opportunity. Andrew Love, he moved up into 7th place, a great lap from him, 1:59.79, and this for Joshua Flores. Well, he improved on that lap, 2 minutes dead, 0.95, but the checkered flag is out. Drivers do have a little bit of extra time to get across the line, as we see here a bit of a drag race. See 2 of the cars. York Marnie, wow, mammoth final sector, and it is good enough for pole from the Swiss driver.
Oh.
2 attempts out of nowhere there, absolutely hooked it up a treat. Great.
Yeah, incredible job.
I mean, I'm not too sure where he pulled out all that time from. I mean, just looking at it, actually, compared to Jason Green, for example, he managed to pull out some half a second quicker than the American, who's currently sitting 3rd, just in that final sector alone. So that was a really, really strong sector there. As I see Gary Warbolt's trying to see he's headed out onto his first lap right at the end of qualifying, and unfortunately he will actually, he'll squeeze this one time in. All or nothing from the American. However, I get the feeling that it's not, from looking at it, it's not going to be anything too great. No, he's going to remain down in 16th is where he will start from. In fact, it invalidated the lap. So, unfortunately for him, he will start on the back row of the grid and just waiting the last couple of drivers come across the line. Then we will head across into the race. 40 minutes here today from Snetterton. Well, will it be a dominant display up front from the 2 Masters drivers, Yorgamani, Antonio Rice? They're starting on the front row. We're going to see someone else really take the fight for them. It's going to be interesting to see about Green and Renders, because they're closely matched, not only to one another, but also to the 2 in front of them. That's what damage they can inflict. Obviously, metaphorically, not physically. In these opening stages, last thing we want is the top 4 wiping each other out. As well, we head across into the race. Let's take you through your grid for round 4. The championship. Yorgamani starts on pole with Antonio Rice alongside him. Jason Green and Thomas Renders make an all-spec 1 second row of the grid. And then it's an all-spec 2 third row of the grid. So locked up by each of the classes for the first 3 rows. Richard Coffey and Roland Wallbank on row 3. Andrew Love and Tom Laurie start 7th and 8th respectively, with row 5 and round 8 top 10. It's Jim Brewster and Lassie Pentakainen. Andrew Berra has got fellow countryman Joshua Flores for company on row 6. And on to row 7, see Stevie Ray and Adam Bradshaw, 2 Masters drivers there. Row 8 sees Jeff Jacobson and Gary Walbolt start alongside one another. And Trenton Kramer is going to round out our grid here as the cars line up behind the Porsche 911 safety car. Rolling start here from Snetterton. As mentioned, 14 minutes of racing. Drivers will need to take a pit stop. There's that element of strategy of how this is going to play out for some of our drivers, and how they're going to make this one work. Just waiting on the last driver to take the grid. That's Richard Coffey. Oh, wow. There's a few drivers who can make some really big points gains here today. It's missing a few drivers' courses, like I mentioned earlier. Easter weekend. Happy Easter to you all. And well, as soon as we've got Richard with us, we'll be heading out away. Wow, an opening lap of discovery, and so tricky this car on these cold tyres, isn't it, Owen?
Yeah, for sure. This car is, twitchy in itself to drive in a normal race, but yeah, especially on lap 1, cold tyres, it's going to be twice as difficult for these guys, of course, as we mentioned before, into turn 1, that ever so sweeping right as well, and, turn 2, and, 4, all these heavy braking zones and zones where you can really chuck the car in. It's going to be quite interesting to see how these guys can handle it on these cold tyres again. Very ferocious, these cars in general, and on cold tyres, it could be twice as bad. So as I come around the different right-hander to start off the race, let's see what they can do on the run down into turn 1 and 2.
Definitely, and well, the easiest strategy already is just to be rubbish like me than the cars aren't so twitchy. That's the easier way around it, personally. But Marnie leads the field. Porsche 911 safety car has pulled in as well. We maintain pace, and Marnie gets us underway as we are green. We are racing from Snetterton in round 4 of the championship, and Antonio Rice instantly coming under pressure there from Jason Green on the run into turn 1. They're going to go side by side. This could end in tears potentially for the pair of them as they drift around the corner, still side by side. And Rice just in front, but it's Green who's going to be on the inside on the run into Montreal, late on the brakes. And it's the American are going to lunge on the inside, nearly makes contact there with the Portuguese driver. They both can get away with it. Also, Renders and Coffee all over the back of these two right now, but this is all playing into Yogmani's advantage, into his hands. There's already 7 temps clear of the field. And we're running on the run down to Agostini here, as we're still side by side. The battle furnace Renders up the inside of Green. Just about gets his stops in time, runs in deep, and that's going to allow Richard Coffey here to inflict damage onto Green. And well, he's slotted his way past this, talking of damage. Lassie Pentakainen involved Jeff Jacobson, and wow, they've clearly had a bit of a coming together, and there's damage to the front end of Jacobson's car. So that's happened, well, I think that was into Agostini there, that relatively high-speed part of the track, as you see through the field already Marnie half a second clear of Rice, who is some, 1.1 seconds clear of the following pack of Renders, Coffey, Green, Laurie. Stops all the way pretty much down at Wallbank, Love close to them. So they come down in towards Brundle for the first time. Onto the brakes, everyone just hooking up, playing a bit more safe. And well, Owen, where these top two are getting away, clearing off into the distance, that following pack for third place needs to start working together.
Yeah, indeed, it's a beautiful start by Yorkmoney and Antonio Breeze as well, with like beautiful getaway from Yorkmoney as well to bring them off into a nice comfortable gap. And yeah, the cars behind are just jostling for position. Maybe a bit too much, I suppose. I think Thomas is now in a comfortable position to just nail on ahead and really focus on getting Antonio. But yeah, these guys need to work together. Jar seems to be pretty powerful here. We saw Antonio gain a little bit of time on the back straight to Yorkmoney there as well. As we see him move back there in the background again, going down the inside of turn 1, tries to hang it round. Yeah, gives it up not too much on the switchback of Dreams by Richard Coffey there. Oh, shoves him out wide just a little bit because it goes into the wall, doesn't take control of it, and there is Jason Green's race out, and that is him done for today. That is a shame for him.
He's missing the front nose cone, like broken suspension as well. As mentioned, it's not able to quite hold on for dear life. They're just getting onto the grass in the perennial iRacing ice-like grass of death, causing another victim. I mean, they had bagged wheels on the run into turn 1. Oh yeah, after that, it was an amazing switchback as well from Coffey. He's up into 4th now. Well, the gap between 4th and 5th now enlarging dramatically because of it. It's a 1.2 seconds between them, but battle's still plenty up and down for the field as we see Trenton Kramer, Joshua Flores, and they've got Gary Walbot, in fact, just behind them. It's in the battle for 11th right now, and Kramer, well, he's already up 5 places and going for 6th here over Flores, who's managed to pick up the 1, and considering we've had a couple of retirements, a bit of a disappointing display so far from the American. But look at the run that 444 machine has got out of Williams as we head down the back straight towards Brundle. It moves out of the slipstream, and this is going to be a move done and dusted for Kramer. Onto the brakes. There we go. That is him through. Well, I say he's through. As Flores had a little bit of a look again, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been possible if he just kept his nose there a little bit more, but yeah, again, the draft is really powerful on the back straight as well. I mean, yeah, Trent and Kramer are really doing a good job of holding that one steady. But yeah, looking back at that turn one incident again, it just seems like Jason Green went too much and too deep down the inside of turn one and just missing that apex he needed to hit. And then, yeah, just say iRacing grass hooks him on, and then that's him gone out of the race. But yeah, this gap between York Monday and Antonio Reese is really closing down as well. Thomas trying to catch onto the back of him as well. He's really separated from the pack. Again, 2.4 seconds now to him and Coffee. So yeah, that instant between Coffee and Jason really helped Thomas out there and trying to catch back onto this lead pack here. But yeah, it seems like this pack is closing up and going to get pretty feisty, I think, in the next coming laps.
Brenda's with 3 attempts quicker than our lead 2 last time around. Set new fastest lap of the race. It's still early days as we're just out onto lap 3 right now. As we see Love, Benner, and Brewster. This is the battle for 7th place. Benner's already picked up 3 places in these opening stages here. 5 minutes on the clock nearly. Marnie leading from Rice, Renders, Coffee in 4th. There's Warback, Laurie, Love, Bennett, Brewster with Stevie Ray running out in your top 10. Just Kramer up into 11th right now with Flores, Warbolt, Pentakainen. Back from them, then Bradshaw and Jacobson for early excursions. They're 15th and 16th. And so that one retirement so far, being Jason Green and hardly surprising after that big amount of contact. So we're right on board with Jim Brewster right now. You see just how close everyone is, and seems we're getting a much better exit out of Williams there for me. Definitely, Owen.
Yeah, indeed, especially talking about exits, I see ahead of us as well. We have a really great battle between the top 3 right now. They're all just, you know, really going at it. Antonio slipped right into turn 1 as we see a move going down the inside, the left-hander. Jim Brewster, oh, now he's on the outside. Does Andrew Lovett seem not quite? Well, that looked really feisty there. These guys are not afraid to get the elbows out of this track. You know, some of these corners I thought wouldn't be able to hold these guys around the outside, but it really plays well for them. As we see a look back to these guys at the front.
They've had a change to the lead as we see the replay. But this is how Antonio Rice managed to do it. You talked about that slipstream and how it's really working into effect earlier, Owen. And yet again, utilising it to get ahead of the Swiss driver and now take the lead here on lap, well that was on to lap 2, we're on to, sorry, lap 3, we're on to lap 4 now. It's coming out as this and fast as Love and Laurie have swapped places and places yet again a little bit further down through the field as they come down in towards Montreal onto the brakes. And Rice just lunging in a little bit deep there, and I did wonder if he's going to lose the rear. Managed to collect it and compose himself, but that gap between the top 3 is shrinking right now, and just 6 attempts is all that covers them. And it's Antonio Rice getting loud, Larry, and wild on the exit there.
Yeah, he needs to be careful. Keeping them tires in check is going to be crucial for this 40-minute race. So yeah, if he can just keep it composed, keep it nice and cool, now that he's got past into the lead and just have the benefits of that clean air, it'll be, you know, pay very dividend to him at the end of the race, how great his tires will be at the end. So yeah, he just needs to keep it cool a little bit. Just keep it cool at the rear.
Now our lead group just starting to open up a little bit as Tom Laurie having a bit of an excursion there through into Oggies. Not sure where he's found. Well, he's managed to lose that through Hamilton potentially. Just drift out wide and, well, become the perennial lawnmower. A little bit hard to do these cars because there's no front wing. However, Tom Laurie's having a really good go at that one, and in doing so, he's dropped a whole heap of time to Love and Wallbank, respectively, who are now some 1.5 seconds up the road from him. And he's now dropping back into this little group here, and Andrew Bennett all over the back of him.
Indeed, again, these cars are very twitchy, very technical as well into these kind of medium speed corners, so I suppose he's probably lost the back end just a little bit, tried to save it and got onto the grass. So yeah, good save from him not to end it too badly or in the wall. So yeah, he's back on track and not in the position that he wants to be. But yeah, these guys again aren't afraid to really send these cars around these corners, and it's a great showing so far by all of them.
Great showing, great under pressure from Joseph Kramer, not intent with 11th right now, looking to make up even more places. As his fellow countryman, he's looking to smash on the run into turn 1 as they come across the line here, as they're side by side, and up the inside goes Trent Kramer for the move. That's him up inside the top 10, up 7 places now. It's Ray just dropping back, but instantly coming back at him, where he much better entrance into turn 1, but can't quite make it count. The run down towards Montreal needs to really hook it up once again. There's another opportunity here in towards Oggies, but he's going to be a little bit too far back. Doesn't stop the American from looking at all. I think that's pretty much Kramer's position done, dusted and sorted, and he's going to secure himself with that 10th place.
Yeah, I don't think Stevie wants to fight that much. Again, it looks like he just backed off to allow Kramer through. Oh, as he goes wide a little bit, Stevie, never mind, tries to take that position back again, does so very successfully. But yeah, I was about to say that he might want to keep it cool and see Kramer's pace ahead of him, but now that position's just swapped again from a mistake from Kramer. Does Kramer have a look down the inside? Just sits behind for now, but still looking and still making sure that he's there for sure. But yeah, a little bit of a switchback it seems again there.
These two, I get the feeling that maybe they might just keep swapping places for the next couple of laps until one of them decides to take control of the situation. Flores just dropping off a little bit from the back of them as here we go yet again between these two. Kramer on the inside. Driver's right is Ray, who just elects to take that wider line in just to carry a bit more speed through the corner. I'll tell you what, that was well balanced by Kramer there. I thought he was going to lose the rear end there, just managed to collect it.
Again, yeah, I mean, these guys are really looking to that inside of the right-hander. It plays very effective. I mean, yeah, it just looks like they're going to send it up the inside of that corner and really spook Kramer out as we see Andrew Life go off track. Does he lose the position to the 2.6? Laurie does indeed. No real threat there, but yeah, these guys, again, aren't afraid to get the elbows out and really show that they mean business as we see a move down to turn 1. Very successful at the minute. Can he get the switch back into turn 2? This is Coffee behind him. No send from him at this moment in time. Still looking to make sure that he's there and make sure that threat is still alive, so, you know, Wallbank ahead doesn't really ease up at all. That's the one thing you don't want the guy ahead of you to do, is really ease up, because as soon as he feels comfortable, that's it. He's not going to make any mistakes. So if you're showing your nose, if you're making sure that the guy ahead of you knows that you're there, you can really be a danger, especially into these hard braking zones.
Okay, pro top tip there from Mr. Drive Dead himself.
There we go.
There we go. As well, our top 3 still relatively evenly matched between the 3 of them, training fastest laps as they are. As I thought that we were just seeing Coffee lose it there just out of the corner of my eye, but no, he's still got it collected. And Wallbank just starting to maybe feel a little bit of the pressure here. It's Coffee remaining right on to his tail. This battle for 4th with this, no, I mean, bar a big incident as we're just over quarter race distance right now. I think they're going to be in really much of a chance of catching up with our top 3, some 6 seconds behind them, especially if they keep battling like they have been. And talking of battling, Antonio Rice is just looking a little bit squirrely at the moment for me, Owen. Not sure he's sitting potentially really comfortable in that first place.
Yeah, indeed. It seems like Jorgen Marley behind has really picked up the pace, you know, from earlier on. I mean, Antonio had really great pace to pull away from Jorgen Marley there, but maybe the little twitches that he's had and the extra pressure that he's had from trying to keep that lead has paid an effort to his rear tires, and just the car is not behaving in the way that he'd want to. But still keeping it okay. There's still like a 2.5 temp gap, which is fairly manageable from this distance, but we'll see what happens into turn 2. It doesn't seem like Jorgen Marley's want to make a move too early on, just wants to kind of keep it chilled. Still really early on into this 40-minute race, so again, maybe just want to save some fuel and think of the strategy more than the on-track position right now.
Well, this is the tricky part, isn't it, for Marley? Because not only is he trying to mount an attack into Rice, he knows full well that if he doesn't pull it off, Renders is just looming large behind them. And also, let's not forget that on the end of lap 1, the gap between Renders and our top 2 was around about some, 7-8 tenths of a second, and he just reeled them in incredibly quickly. So clearly some space, some pace even being displayed in that 41 machine right now of Renders. So yeah, for sure. If Marley doesn't get the move done, he knows he's going to drop back to 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, he had the fastest lap last race, did Renders there, 58.59 compared to Jorgen Marley's 58.8, and Antonio's 59 flat. So again, really good pace so far from Renders, and maybe he's going to use that to his advantage, whether it comes to the pit stops, where he can just, you know, try and save some fuel, go a lap ahead, and really use that pace on that 1 lap advantage, try and get out ahead of them both. Or maybe he goes for it if he can seize a chance. He's very close on the back of Jorgen Marley right now, so maybe he tries it into turn 2 if he can keep it there for that long. But yeah, he's got some serious pace in that car. Very much so.
This is a bit of a challenge with series like this, because officials, they're like 15-minute races, 20 minutes at most, whereas we're going for a 40-minute race here. You can double the race distance of what you could run in any officials for this car. So it's a bit of a you know, a trip into the unknown, especially with it still being an incredibly new car to the iRacing service. And it's just understanding, you know, how the tyres are going to behave, how they're going to degrade across that 40-minute spell with different temperatures and at different tracks. There's a whole lot of unknowns compared to another series within the Ray Esports stable, the SRF Weekend Warriors, which you see later on here on Apex Racing TV, where they've been going for some, I think it's about 5 years now, all in, 4 seasons per year. It's obviously mirroring the iRacing officials. So, I mean, it's as we see into the pits, Love, Ray, and Pentakainen, they're all in incredibly early, although it must be pit stop window time. Steve Rayson, he's normally the first to stop of anyone. As we're out on to lap 8. So yeah, it's a real challenge, isn't it, for the drivers, where you've got no previous information on what's going to happen with the car.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for sure. I mean, these cars, again, as we mentioned before, you know, it's pretty much a slide fest with these cars, how you turn them in and, you know, really keep the car in a stable condition. So if they're really over pushing it, like you saw Antonio earlier with the rear end, maybe his tyres will give up towards that 30-minute mark or so. As we see big slides through Hamilton Corner there for these guys. But yeah, maybe it will pay, you know, not so well for them if they keep sliding too much throughout this race, and we'll see what they do towards the end of the race here with their tyres and conditions of the car. But yeah, it seems like people are struggling out there with keeping their car in check, and it's only 15 minutes in as we see look inside the 41 machine again. Thomas just making sure that your money knows that he's there again, which is very, very essential and key to a psychological warfare in the car as well. So yeah, Thomas doing a really good job so far to keeping his car cool, and he's still got really good pace in that car with his car at that time.
Just to give you an idea of track temperatures here today, so ambient 23 degrees, whereas track is up at 27, so just into the warmer temperatures here, and that's clearly going to play a little bit of part of the longevity of the tyres. Who's looked after them well in those early stages. So something's happened to Love. I think you see these come off track, and that's not once not long after his pit stop. He's got up and running again, not seeing any damage, so if he's made any contact with any walls, so I'm going to predict a bit of a spin here, or maybe a bit of an excursion across the grass. All good right now, down in towards Oggy's, big lock up there, and well, minor, but really not helping his chance, especially with that early pit stop, looking to run it in late and deep, and well, and running it late and deep into the corner instead of his strategy.
Yeah, as we see there, his right front is not going to be happy with him. We saw him go into that right hand and just lock up ever so slightly as well. So his right front is really not going to agree with him for quite a lot of laps now. So he needs to do his best to try and cool that car off and just keep it in a cool condition, and yeah, try and regain that time that he might have lost there with the lockup.
Top three still close as you like, still remain 3 tenths apiece between each of them, 6 tenths covering them all. So Coffey still onto the back of Wallbank, Benner still onto the back of Brewster. In terms of the classes, well, looking like 2 Masters drivers onto the podium, and only 1 Spec 1 racer in the form of Renders, although with only 3 Spec 1 drivers here this weekend, all guaranteed of a place on the podium in class. We'll take one positive out of the weekend, although Jeff Jacobson not having the best of times, neither is Jason Green, who has actually got back out on the track after looking like he'd retired initially. Although he is nearly a whole lap down against the drivers that he was going to be looking to be battling it out with.
Yeah, Jason Green had a really good pace at the start as well. It's a shame that he had that little mistake going to turn 1, just went too deep in on the entry, and yeah, that was his race done there from then on out. Or his race done with what he thought it could have been. But yeah, this top 3 seems to be in a really good condition again. Not really many moves, as I said before, just want to keep it nice and collected again, really early on still. So as they all hit, it seems. No one going for the overcut or undercut, it seems. They're both in.
It's one of those tricky ones, isn't it? What do you do? Looking at Wallbank and Coffey behind them, they're going to go around one more time at least. It's not even making it to half race distance as the top 3 pull in. Who's going to make it out first in the race of the pit stop? Who's going to fuel their car with, well, slightly less fuel? Maybe he looks to sit in the draft, or go roughly about the same. Still on the jacks taking on fuel.
Oh, it's Renders out first.
Followed by Antonio Race Marnie out last. Though Marnie's pit box was a little bit further down the pit lane. And as they come out, well, it's advantage Renders as Joshua Flores is in the wall. That's into turn. Wilson was just ahead of them. So that would be look like it's turn 1 there.
Yeah, speaking of that pit stop earlier back then, Thomas Renders saying his pit stop was 2 seconds quicker than the rest of them, which makes sense. His pit entry is really, really on point. Really got the car stopped just in time. Yorkmoney not so much. He took a while to get to his pit stop, so that could have lost him a lot of time there. But he really played into Thomas's hands. He's separated by about a second now to Antonio behind. So yeah, he's the big winner of the 3-pack there.
It's really, really spaced them out, hasn't it? You know, they came in, what, 6 tenths covering the 3 of them. Now it's about 2.2 seconds covering the 3 of them. A big change at what is potentially going to be the battle for the lead. There's Antonio Rice right now, and well, sitting in the middle of this 3-car conundrum. It's the battle for the lead. What can he do? He's got about a second to 1.1 seconds. So Renders ahead of them. So the big question is, has Renders taken off on enough fuel? He was stationary for pretty much 2 seconds less than Rice and Marnie. He's either got this absolutely on the nose as Renders, or he hasn't put enough fuel in that car, and he will have to fuel save to get himself home. And it's a long way to go, isn't it? I mean, we're only just clicked over to half race distance.
Yeah, indeed, it's a very long way to go on this fuel set as well. But I believe that Thomas would have been sitting there saving fuel again. He had so much pace in that car, but didn't want to use it to gain track position early on. So I believe that he's just sat behind, saved a lot of fuel, and if that's the case, then that's a very good job to him, because he is put himself in a really good position to use that pace. And again, he might have to fuel save. He may have underfueled the car a little bit as well, so massively fuel saving as well, as we see Gary Wolberdot.
Yeah, he's gone full 180 there, hasn't he? So clearly a spin ended up making a point in the wrong direction. He's got up and running once more, and I believe that's around about Oggy's, Williams, that sort of area. He's heading down the back straight now, so that must have been into Oggy's. Very easily done through there. As we see, but Antonio Rice has taken a big chunk out of Thomas Renders already. I do wonder. See, out of the first sector alone, Rice took 4 tenths out of him just there. I do wonder. You've got to really start to wonder: is it the case that he's not got enough fuel to get himself home, so he's having to fuel save this one? He's just looking to hold up the Portuguese driver behind him, but the more he backs him up, that's just going to make Yorgmani's job even easier to clutch up onto the pair of them. Although, say that, the gap has actually gone between Rice and Marnie to, well, 1.3, 1.4 seconds. It closes up once again. It's yo-yoing back and forth, but this is going to be interesting. It's just how much Renders can fend off Rice for as long as possible. Although, I mean, does he almost want to let him go past? If he does need to save fuel, well, I think we're going to see the change here. I say for the lead, technically it is, because these are the drivers leading that have pitted so far. Everyone above them hasn't, and that's the move done by Antonio Rice. And, well, is it going to be back to Renders and just sitting in the slipstream and fuel saving now?
This could be a very smart play from Renders, as you say. I mean, if I was him and I knew that I had a lot of fuel to save at this point in the race, and, you know, it seemed like fuel saving was very, very key to Renders' pit stop as well. So, yeah, I reckon that he's underfueled it probably more than he would have liked to, but again, he can use, you know, Antonio ahead of him to start fuel saving massively again. He did a massive lift to let Antonio by, so my inkling is that he has underfueled quite a lot, and that he needs Antonio in front of him to kind of save that fuel. When he knows that he can have a nice, comfortable, you know, gap to really, you know, push that fuel to its advantage, he can really start to close back in on Antonio here. But yeah, he's definitely underfueled a lot, and he's definitely trying to regain what he lost in terms of fuel.
See, look, Warbank and Laurie here just getting parts. So yeah, that's for the lead right now, and that's Coffee through, getting the move done in spectacular style into Agostini. And what can he do? Can he hold on? How much longer are these guys gonna run it? Now, if they run this in as far as they possibly can, that car's going to be lighter for a longer period the entire race. And I mean, when they came to pit stops, they were about 6 seconds behind our lead group. I do wonder what it's going to be down to by the time that they do come into pit. I mean, they could well have taken a good chunk of time, although battling away like they currently are isn't going to help things whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, they're saying decent lap times right now. Richard was a 59 flat and a 59.3. Renders off. A mistake there from Renders. That's not very good for his strategy there. He drops behind He's got Somali ahead of him. It's not too far out of it, but yeah, definitely a loss to his strategy game that he was playing right there. 2.8 gap now to Antonio, so that's not very good for his strategy at all. Hopefully he can regain that time. So I was about to say with Antonio setting a 58.4 last time round, which is, you know, the fastest lap of the race so far. So Antonio has a lot of pace in that car as we see Roland box in, and I believe that's Richard staying out.
Yeah, Coffee stays out. Wallbank into the pits. And following him was Joshua Flores. I do wonder if that might be to retire the car potentially. He's already been in a few incidents here today. As Andrew Banner comes in as well, you can just see him emerging into the top right corner of your screen. There he is. Really just picking him up, making his way down the pit road. And just one of the numerous bumps in the pit boxes here at Snetterton. There he is, well, lead driver yet to pit as, oh no, that's Trenta Kramer off as he's been having an absolutely great race so far, but then loses a place to Ray. So after all that hard work of catching up to the back and getting past Ray, it's all undone for the American and drops back behind him and back down to 11th. Still up 6 spots though, so not all quite lost for now. As, well, I'm seeing Wallbank of where he's come out in relation to Rice, Marnie and Renders. Well, he's come out some 18 seconds behind, so that's not looking too good for him in respects of trying to mount a challenge for what potentially is going to be our top 3 here and trying to sneak his way onto the podium. That's what Richard Coffey does, being left alone and to do what he wants to do, to set fastest lap after fastest lap and hot lap every single time. So has he done enough to try and close that gap down, as we had seen earlier? Renders is making that mistake, costing him dearly, where he lost that solid second position, allowed Marnie through. This is all done and dusted for that last place on the podium, Owen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Renders is still there. He's still within the chance. I mean, again, he's definitely not where he wants to be, but he's really closing up now. We're back on York Money there. 8.5 temps down to 7 temps. It's really, as we see Antonio really step out the rear end and really light up the rear tyres. It's not going to be beneficial for his next few laps there. But yeah, as we see back on York Money there in the middle of this kind of sandwich of the leaders here, it seems like his race is going fairly well. But yeah, Thomas Render's not going to be happy with himself with that little mistake that he made. But he's definitely still within the fight. And again, it's really closing up all this gap here. Now, 8 temps separating all 3 of them. Between them.
Yeah, it's down to 1.6 seconds. I mean, originally the gap between Rice and Marnie alone was closer to 1.6 seconds than it being the collective time between all 3 drivers. So this is not done and dusted here by any stretch of imagination. And don't discredit Richard Coffey either, because he's still in with a bit of a shout here of closing in on these guys, especially if these guys start battling. Renders last time around, new fastest lap of a race, 1:58.36. Which was actually 200th faster than Rice, who had temporarily held that. So Renders crossed the line. And Marnie right now is looking like they're slightly slower. Actually, no, apologies. I spotted. Actually, Rice was 1:59, not 58. So, yeah, he was about a second quicker last time around. These little mistakes are starting to hurt Rice right now.
Yeah, as we see, as I said, Antonio was a second slower than Thomas last time around. Marnie separating them in the middle of the 58.7. So yeah, these guys were really closing up on each other again. And yeah, now 1.5 seconds separates them. And York is getting very, very close to the back of Antonio Rees. And again, the first sector's coming in. It seems like York is the fastest out of the 3 of them so far. Not by much though. Thomas Render's just a little bit behind as well. They'll come, they're fairly matched so far, but yeah, now we're 1.5 seconds to separate them. But this is going to get very close, and I feel like York is going to want to try and seize the moment where he can, because this moment is getting very, very close to him. And yeah, it seems like a very good opportunity for York to step in there. But yeah, Thomas Render's behind still. I think probably a bit annoyed at himself again, as I said before, with his little mistake there. But yeah, he's definitely not out of it, because as we see here, he's really catching on the back as Richard Coffey comes into the pits to see where he comes out in respective of Roland Wallbank. We see him come in the box now. How good is his pit entry? It seems fairly quick. Stops the car. So Roland Wallbank's pit stop last time was a 47.8 overall, 23.5 in the box as well. Let's see what he comes out in perspective with them guys as well. See if his overcut has worked to his advantage again. Lighter car for Coffey there, so maybe he can use that to his advantage. Try and gain a lot of that time out of it. Yeah, as we see Wallbank coming through now, as well. He seems pretty in a decent position, but yeah, back on the board for our leaders again. The gap is still 1.5 seconds. York Money takes the fastest lap out of the three of them that time round with 58.4. Again, separated by 0.5 and 0.6 as well. So we see Tom Laurie come out the box. Or does he come out in respect of everyone else? Since that Andrew Benarg and Andrew Love behind him, he gets ahead of him going to turn 1. This might be fairly close going to turn 2 though. Andrew Benarg with the overspeed going to turn 1, maybe turn 2 as well. Does he look towards the inside? He has enough speed. There goes his car down the inside, goes Andrew Benarg. And there we go, takes a position as easy as he goes around the outside of the number 260 car and just gives it up a little bit. Again, fairly heavy car will Tom Laurie be having right now. So yeah, not too great for him to try and escape. But yeah, still a very good pit stop nonetheless to keep in the middle of that sandwich.
Andrew Love, I spotted him in the background, really pushing hard to catch up onto these two right now. Getting it nearly sideways as he came through turn 1 and kicking up a lot of dirt on the exit through the pitches. As we see back to our looming battle for the lead there, back down to what we're talking about. They are closing up here, so two key battles emerging. The battle for 7th and the battle for, well, what will be first. Brewster, the only driver out on track yet to pit. And in terms of his lap times, well, it's more in comparison with Wallbank and Benner right now. The group behind definitely lapping quicker. There is Brewster, and well, starting to run into overtime a bit here. He's going to head out into, well, I hope to say head out to lap 16, but Brewster heads into the pits as our lead group come storming past at full chat. This is where we get down to the nitty-gritty, the business end of the race. Inside this last quarter, the last 10 minutes, and this longer lap time around here as well, 2 minutes. Don't get the same opportunities come around very often. I mean, we've got probably about 5 more laps here from Snetterton. That's 5 more sets of opportunities. It's not somewhere like, well, certainly a lot of Brands Hatch Indy in comparison, where you're talking, what, you know, sub 1 minute laps, even these cars. And maybe, you know, they're going to have to maybe make their moves a little bit earlier than they maybe would like to normally.
Yeah, again, as we see York Money looking towards the inside again, as I said, they're wanting to make sure that the guy ahead, Antonio, knows that he's still there and still a threat. I mean, they all are still a threat, especially Thomas Renders behind with a 58.15 last time around. The fastest lap of the race by a long way, so he's really reeling them in. Again, that gap coming down to 6 tenths through the 1.8 as we saw last time. This is Money getting very close to the rear end of Antonio Rees there, as we see on board with him as well. Yeah, it seems very close this top 3. It's only going to get closer with the way this is working out right now. But yeah, they're really going for it on these last few laps here. As you said, opportunities are very minimal with this long lap time and very small overtaking opportunities. So they're going to try and seize every moment they get as they're coming down to 4.5 tenths. Now 4 tenths in that one straight alone, going from 6 tenths to 4 tenths in one straight. It's all jostling their way through the little tightness of the tracks there again. This is where the cars will be in their worst conditions as the time before. But again, light fuel will balance out. So these guys are going to have to fight the cars as well, rather than just the guys ahead of them. So yeah, it seems like it's going to be a very close battle towards the end if this carries on how it is.
It certainly is. And see Marnie looking incredibly racy right now against Antonio Rice, although just lunged in a bit too deep. That's how a lap means. Renders had to check up there, as he nearly lost it coming through Murray's, and Antonio Rice allowed to scamper away up off the track and extends that gap out to 7 tenths, although Marnie and Renders in the slipstream take another 10th out of him to bring it back down to a more manageable 6 tenths. We head through turn 1 into the braking zone, and I think this is going to come down to the driver who makes the least amount of mistakes, as we see Rice under no pressure, just, well, misses a braking point ever so slightly, runs it in deep, and the gap's back down to 4 tenths.
Whoa. They're so, like, just in position. Again, what I said before, fighting with the cars where we see York Money and then now Antonio Rees making these small little mistakes which have cost them a lot of time. Again, the York Money back in the same position he was last lap. 3 tenths behind now, 2.5 tenths looking towards the inside. Can't do much from this angle at the minute, like only from 2 tenths back, it's not going to be enough. It needs to be around that 1/10 mark to really seal the deal, unless he wants to go really late on the brakes and really push him out wide, but that's going to be a very aggressive move. And I think one we'll see towards the end of the race for sure. But yeah, these little mistakes that they're making that cost them dear. But yeah, the gap's come down to around about 9 tenths now. The York Money looking on the back of Antonio Rees, making sure that he knows he's still there, and yeah, one to watch for the end for sure.
Certainly is indeed as well. The gap shrinks to cover 8 tenths across them all. Meanwhile, further down through the field, it's as close as you like. This is the battle for, what, 6th place right now. Brewster, Laurie, Bennett and Love. 4 Americans all going at it. Well, wheel to scratch that one. Andrew Love is going to be out of this race now. He's that mistake costing him dearly. He's now dropped 2 seconds off the back of that little trio ahead of him.
Very good save though, for sure. I mean, had to lock up all 4 times to get it stopped, but very good. It could have been a really race-ending. Was on there for him, that little moment on the grass. But yeah, he's still there. So maybe if these guys can battle hard, he's only around about 2 seconds back. So if they battle hard enough, maybe he can slip through and try and grab at least one position. But yeah, he's going to be really hurting them tires after that 4-tire lock up there. But yeah, well done on getting it saved. But yeah, he's definitely out of that little fight there.
Keeping half an eye on, well, this battle right now, and it's well, got as close as a 10.5 and into the braking zone, just expanding out a little bit there, but only just. And Marnie, well, he's cracking up the dial right now of pressure onto Antonio Rice, keeping that gap down to about 2 tenths to a tenth. Moving into the braking zone, moving left, moving right, trying to distract Antonio Rice here. Well, I think roll the dice between these 3 and we'll work out who's going to come out on top. Will it be Rice? Will it be Marnie? Or will Renders take the victory? 1 Spec, 1 driver, 2 Masters going at it hard as we've got, what, 4.5 minutes left on the clock here from Snetterton, currently on lap 18. Ooh, and also, I mean, they have got a bit of time to play with. Coffee is, what, some 23 seconds down the road from these guys. So a mistake won't potentially lose them a podium place, but it will hurt them dearly in their aspirations of where they're going to finish inside this top 3, as Marnie has another bit of a look once again. Rice this time not phased by just sticking to his line as they head through Nelson, through Bomb Hole, of course named after Bomb was dropped on that part of the circuit, hence why there's a bit of a dip there. Evenly matched. Who's going to pick up fastest lap this time around? Because you get the feeling it's going to keep changing hands between these 3 drivers as we head through Coram, through Murray's. And who's going to get the best exit? Well, it's definitely not Marnie there. Definitely not Marnie, Owen.
Yeah, there we go. As we see Thomas Renders getting into P2. I was about to say earlier before, like, you know, Thomas is really on the back of York Money and wanting to make a move, but he doesn't really want to make it too early in case Antonio starts to reap away. But then there it is, York Money making a mistake and Thomas Renders slipping through into P2 now. 9-tenth gap or around about the second gap separates Thomas Renders with Antonio Rees there. But yeah, let's see if he can close up enough to the back of that car. But yeah, I mean, they're all just so close, these guys, and they're really pushing the limits of the car, and it must be so frustrating them getting close and making that small tiny mistake and losing so much time. I bet Jorg is kicking himself in that car for sure. I mean, he's just on the back of Thomas Renders still, enough for a P2, but whether it's enough for a win, it's all in the hands of Thomas Renders, see if he can catch up, or Antonio Rees if he makes a little bit of a mistake like York Money did on the last corner there.
Okay, we are on to the penultimate lap here from Snetterton, so running out of time, running out of options are Renders and Marnie, as that gap has opened up, well, it had opened up to a second, although Rice just made him up, matching that gap. It's going around as far down as 8 tenths, although you can see where he's definitely stronger in certain parts of the circuit right now. Is the Portuguese driver, but that's what happens. Down this back straight, you can see it's closing, it's shrinking. It's down to 9 tenths, then 8 tenths. It's going to drop down to 7 tenths. By the time they reach the braking zone, maybe even 6 tenths. Just reeling Rice in like a fish on the end of a fishing line. And here we go. Here we go, Owen. It's going to be the last lap when they come across the line. Who's going to take it? I mean, Renders, I think he's got enough time to catch up to the back of Rice, but I don't think he's got enough time to make his way past.
Yeah, the minute he's taken around about 4 tenths, now 5 tenths out of Antonio's lead there, so maybe he can really push that car to its limits and use all that, you know, underfield that he put in the pit stop to good use. And yeah, it's going to be a very close race between all these 3 of these guys. I mean, Antonio's taken a lot of time out of York Money there, separating between around about 2 tenths ahead of him, and now 5 tenths to Antonio Rees ahead. Maybe with the massive amount of slipstream these cars can build, push down the back straight, he can try and find his way through. But Will Antonio make a little bit of a mistake running into the final parts of the lap here? He goes fairly deep into T2, not so much. Again, these guys are still open to these mistakes. It doesn't seem like Antonio's going to be under pressure very much. He's still got a comfortable gap behind him, and I'm sure he's going to be focusing ahead of him rather than behind him, unless it comes to the point where Thomas is really, really challenging the rear end of that car. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be likely at this point in the lap anyway.
So we have got, just going to be able to half the lap left remaining. Round 4 of the championship. And Renders is closing the gap down to 3/10 right now. Bit of change, although Reese just seems to be good through this part of the circuit. It's going to give him the slight advantage, but is it going to be enough down the back straight? Is Renders going to be able to mount an attack? What can Yogmani do, currently looming large in that 3rd place? Looking to pick up some scraps from one mistake for either of these drivers as we head down the back straight. The gap is shrinking. We're down into towards 2/10. Rice knows he's in trouble. He moves across defensively, trying to break that draft and, well, just covering off that inside line. Has he got his braking point right? How can Renders come back at him? Well, the answer's no, but he nearly loses on the exit there, and that's going to give Renders the run that he needs to pick up 1st place, back into the lead. And now Marnie's coming alongside Rice. Who's going to get out between the 2 masters? And in the space of 2 corners, Antonio Rice loses 2 positions and drops from 3rd all the way down to 1st. And down into Murray's, and this looks like, barring a mistake, Renders is going to take the checkered flag. But here comes Marnie. I don't think he's going to have enough to get to the line. It's going to be a long run up all the way up there. He pulls out the slipstream. They're going to come across nearly side by side. An under attempt separated our top 2. Antonio Rice, in the end, comes home 3rd.
As we said before, I mean, Antonio just making that little bit of a mistake there at the rear end, just stepping the rear out a little bit on the grass and just took it, you know, too much and too deep on the exit of the corner there. But yeah, really great race from Renders there. Really came back at him after that mistake that I'm sure he's still not happy with. But yeah, a very, very close race between the top 3. I mean, yeah, again, separated by 0.074 tenths of a second is, yeah, this 40-minute race is yeah, very successful day in my book, I guess, for especially for Thomas as well. What a race by him.
Seen this battle here, and well, Bennett just not enough in the tank to pull alongside Laurie. It's the battle. Well, I thought it was going to really kick off between these 3, Brewster, Laurie, and Bennett, but just didn't quite in the end. A lot of respect between them as well. These spang wheels there. This final part of the lap doesn't matter because we're all done and dusted. They've taken the checkered flag. We'll be able to bring you up some classified results very shortly with the last few drivers come across, but I mean, coming into that final lap, I thought Renders, I thought he'd catch him, but I didn't think he had enough. But that one mistake from Antonio Rice was race defining in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how much throughout the whole entire race, in fact, these little tiny mistakes mattered hugely. And you know, we sort of Renders, you know, just after the pit stop as well, he lost the lead and went 2.5 seconds down, and then that final mistake from Reese there really cost him dear as well. And we saw it from Marnie as well in the final corner, went from P2 to jump into P3, but fortunately enough had a little bit of a momentum on that that long right-hander to slip into P2 there. But yeah, these little mistakes in these cars can cost you a hell of a lot of time, as we've seen there. But yeah, great race in the top 3, great race from all the guys today, and yeah, it was a joy to watch.
It certainly was indeed. Just working on Jacobson's across the line. Here he comes. Best of rounds to Jeff Jacobson. Struggled a little bit here today for a couple of incidents as well. Not helping his cause whatsoever. Big shot Pentakainen. Leader in Spec 2, and well, in the end, he's just 14th overall. Disappointing for him. There is the Finnish driver. Well down from where we've come to expect him finishing. But let's take you through some classified results. Renders takes the victory. Barney and Rice finishing on the podium. It's 1st and 2nd in the Masters class. They got Coffee, your winner in Spec 2. He comes home 4th with Wallbank. Not too far behind in the end, in 5th, 2nd in Spec 2. Brewster's going to round out the Masters podium 6th overall, with Laurie just behind him in 7th, going to round out the Spec 2 podium. Bennett, Love and Ray going to round out the top 10, then with Kramer, Rollbolt, Jason Green, of course, one of the only 3 Spec 1 drivers here today. So in the end, despite being 13th, and that incident early on really costing him dearly, finishes on the podium in class with Pentakainen, Bradshaw, Jacobson picking up that last place on the podium in Spec 1, despite being down in 16th and 1 lap down. Likewise was Bradshaw. Joshua Flores retired the car back on lap 15, and we managed 20 laps here. Shall we have a bit of a chat to some of our drivers? And first
We
off,
shall.
let's have a chat to Thomas Renders, our race winner here today. Thomas, just talk us through that final couple, the final half of the race. Realistically, you made that mistake, and it looked like things were done and dusted. But then just able to catch up to these guys so quickly. You displayed some really good pace here today.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know where I got it from. I practiced during the week, and I was nowhere near the pace I had today. So, yeah, I found something, I guess. And yeah, the second half was all about first after the pit stop, about trying to extend the gap. But yeah, I think Antonio and Jörg were just a bit quicker, maybe a couple of tenths per lap, and yeah, they were able to catch me again. And yeah, sadly made a mistake, but luckily I could catch on the slipstream again, and yeah, we were able to make a good fight in the end.
And I mean, talk us through that final lap. I mean, 6 tenths behind coming. I think it was 6 tenths behind Antonio coming across the start-finish line, and then obviously then find yourself behind him. I mean, what was your sort of strategy on that last lap? Was it just hope for a mistake from Rice, or did you think you got it enough within you to be able to close up and make the move?
Yeah, I know my strong point on track was T2, so the hairpin after the first drafting period, and I was too far away there to make an attempt to overtake. But yeah, I just wanted to keep under pressure, and yeah, you can always make a mistake, especially when under pressure. So yeah, I just tried it, and I knew when Antonio was on the left-hand side going into the chicane on the back end, yeah, it was always going to be difficult. And yeah, luckily for me, he made a mistake, but yeah, it's a good fight. We had a good fight during the whole race.
Definitely. Well, congratulations, your race winner here today from Snetterton. That is Thomas Renders. Next up, Owen, I should let you have a chat to Jim Brewster, who had a decent race today, finished in 6th.
Yeah, Jim. First of all, happy Easter, and congratulations on 6th place today. How was it out there for you? How'd the car feel, and how'd this car and track combo feel for you out there today?
Well, I had to do a lot of homework. I didn't know this track. I'm getting to love this car. You know, I run the Surfs and the Vs, and this sort of a combination of the Surf and the V all put together. But this track is really, really, really tricky. No two ways about it. Anybody got 0x today deserves more than 5 points. But I had a great battle with Andrew Love, Andrew Banah, and Tom Laurie. We pretty much fought the whole race. So, you know, us mid-packers had a good fight. And, you know, here I'm in Masters. You think in the day when there's nobody here, and I still end up with 3rd in the Masters. You know, I should have entered S1 today, you know. So it's sad we had a shortcoming, but anyway, good. We love watching your races. Like I said, my sister watches in Argentina every week, the Surfs, and now she watches you guys every week. You guys do a great job.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, again, for you, like, how was the strategy out there for you as well? Obviously, the pit stops were different between you guys, and was there anything with fuel that you decided to do, maybe under fuel and fuel save a little bit, or was it just, you know, come into the box, fuel enough, and get back out there and try and make some on-track overtakes?
The car defaulted to 4.0, and I think a lot of people left it at that, where you could pump it up to 4.9. And I like to run the car light twice, you know, once when it runs out in the race and once at the end. A few laps before that, Andrew Love got a neutral, and I bumped into him and bent my suspension a little bit, but it didn't affect me too much. It was mostly driving skill today. This place is really, really tricky. I was really bad underneath the bridge into that chicane. I just wanted to make sure I survived, so I was entering it at a truly pedestrian pace. So one of these days I got to figure out that corner, but it's just so hairy and so high risk, you know, so I just take the conservative approach and try to go fast the rest of the lap.
Yeah, for sure. Again, very tricky this track indeed, as you mentioned before. But yeah, congratulations on 6th place again, and yeah, look forward to seeing what you got for us next time round.
Yeah, you bet. See you guys next week. Thanks for everything. Thanks, Stevie, League, all these racers. Such a good bunch of guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Next up, we have got series organizer Stevie Ray. Stevie, well, I mean, definitely a tough track out there today. We just heard from Jim Brewster saying exactly the same. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was tricky. You definitely had to find some break points and rhythm to get into, and then the chicane after the bridge was tough to figure out where to brake. So it was definitely one of the trickier ones we do, and for whatever reason that, or I don't know, it's not one of the most popular. So we were down on participation a little bit for the week, and being Easter weekend, so.
Like you say, it is Easter weekend, and well, for a brand new championships, it's still all strong and relatively good. I mean, next week we head to Okayama, a track that's widely used within the rookie and D-class series, and even a little bit further up occasionally as well. I mean, that's going to be an absolute blast in these cars. I'm sure we're going to see tons of action around there.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and being the free content, we'll get some of our guys back. And like you said, for being a new series, new championship, new car, we're doing pretty good. We've had 34 or so to kick off the season, which is awesome for a new league. And I just wanted to pop in for a few minutes anyway and just say thanks to everybody for joining in and supporting it, for you guys and getting this brand new league up and going, and the great racing that has come over from the SRF group and the Formula V Weekend Warriors that we have. It's just another great addition to the Weekend Warrior closet.
I echo that completely agree with you. I mean, in terms of your own race, I'm stuck in a bit of no man's land at times. I mean, did you prefer it that way, that you weren't getting caught in any battles or tripping up over people, or did you hope to maybe just hook up onto the back of someone a little bit more? I mean, you had that bit of a battle with Trenton Kramer for a while, and then quite a close run to the line, I think, between yourself and him.
Yeah, early on before the pit stops, we had some good battling going on. I would much prefer to be with some good guys that can battle with and trust each other and have a lot of fun. After the pit stop, I was, like you said, I was just kind of out on my own and couldn't catch up with anybody. I'd rather I would rather be ahead of people, not have people down my back. So I follow better without the pressure, I guess. But yeah, it was try to stay away from the guys behind me and try to catch up to the guys in front of me, but that didn't work. So it's what it is. It was kind of a weird track and a weird weekend.
Definitely was indeed. Well, congratulations on the 10th, and well, undoubtedly we'll see you in roughly about an hour's time for the SRF Weekend Warriors.
No, I got some family stuff going on, and that's one of the tracks I don't even have yet. So with the family, I didn't even get it this week. So I turned over admin duties to a couple of the other guys, and we'll watch it with everybody else.
Family getting in the way of sim racing.
Yeah.
Shocking. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time anyway. And it's going to be, I think, in some ways I don't blame you for missing one. I think it's going to be a bit of a crazy race later on in Fuji, but well, I'm sure it's going to be an absolute cracker either way. That's Stevie Ray picked up 10th place here today at Snetterton. Wow, Owen, I mean, some cracking battles out there. Your first commentary. Congratulations on making it through.
Thank
what do you take home from this?
I mean, yeah, it's just I didn't expect this much racing, to be honest. I thought Snetterton is a track which is usually not built for these kind of battles, I guess. But yeah, we saw a lot of moves, especially some lookings into the sweeping left and right under the bridge as well, which was quite cool to see. But yeah, this was a very good race. I mean, these Formula Fords are really good for getting the elbows out and really pushing these drivers to the limits as well. And yeah, it provides great racing, good amount of slipstream. The mistakes that you make they do punish you, which is a good factor as well to have to add to that pressure factor as well. And these guys handled that really well, and it was just a great spectacle all the way through.
Well, definitely was indeed. Thanks very much for joining us here for the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. And well, I've been Tim Cox with Owen Carroll and Sumi Likumo, and we'll see you in a week's time when the championship has landed the rising sun to Okayama. See you then.